Hello and welcome to Healing Womanhood. My name's Saffron and this is an EFT how-to video about words. So one of the things that can stop people from tapping is not knowing what words to say. People can get really hung up on that and feel like they have to have the right words. And I had someone ask me in a session recently, the words really matter, don't they? And my answer was, well, they do and they don't. So when our tapping is not effective, changing the words can make it effective. But that doesn't mean that we have to be exact and precise with the correct words. There is no magic, there's no mystery to this. So I'm going to go over a few different ways of coming up with words, tapping without words, different things about the words that we say. And if you have any questions at the end of this, then do please ask. So we're going to start by talking about the setup statement. Now the setup statement does have a bit of structure about it. That's the statement that we say while we're tapping here on the karate chop point. And the structure that we usually use for that is even though, so we would start with even though, and then we would say I have this problem. So this bit changes drastically. So even though I'm really low in confidence, even though I've got this anxiety in my tummy, even though my bank balance is low and it makes me feel really stressed. Our thing that we're working on goes in that I have this problem section. And then our end part, our third part, is an affirmation. So we often use I love and accept myself exactly as I am. Some of my other favourites are that's okay and I'm okay, or I choose to feel safe anyway. And different affirmations are going to feel right at different times. So if your setup begins, even though they did this horrible thing to me, you probably don't want to say that's okay, because your mind will, it would be fine to say that because it's about I accept that happened. So that's another one that we can use. I accept that happened because it did, and I choose to feel safe anyway. But if your mind starts throwing up objections, it takes us away from the point a little bit. Please don't worry, it's absolutely fine if you use that wording, but you might just notice on your first setup statement that you say, even though they did this horrible thing to me, that's okay, and your mind goes, no, it's not. So on your second setup statement, you can say, even though they did this horrible thing to me, I choose to feel safe anyway. Now, when we're choosing our problem words, I have this problem words, my preference is to focus on the emotion. A lot of people focus on the sensation in the body, which I do as well. Either of those is fine. So rather than even though I'm feeling stressed, I might say even though I have this stress in my stomach or this anxiety in my stomach when I think about blah. So it's not necessarily even though I've got this presentation coming up. You can do that and it might work, but it tends to be more effective, more potent if we can really get into the emotion that we're using. And then we move on to the rest of the points, the reminder points we can call them. And we say some variation of the problem that we had in our setup statement. And what you'll notice as you tap more on your own and using your own words is that the words will just start to flow. Your mind will give you the words. But in the beginning, when you're thinking, oh, what do I say? Then that's probably not gonna flow as easily. And just keeping going, keeping tapping gets you through that anxiety. So some things that you can do there is you can just state that problem. You can just really simply say, I have this problem. I have this problem. Or they did that mean thing to me, or this anxiety in my tummy. And you can vary it a little bit. This anxiety in my tummy, this tightness in my tummy. And that variety is just to keep your attention so that your mind doesn't drift off onto what you're going to do later or the shopping list or whatever it may be. Another way that we can come up with really good words is if you're a journaler. Now, this might not come naturally to you, and if it doesn't come naturally to you, do not worry about it. We're not trying to bring in an extra difficult thing here. But if you are a journaler, then do some journaling and just read aloud what you've written as you tap around the points. And that can be really, really effective because that's your words. And then journal again afterwards about what's shifted, if anything. If nothing shifts, then try something different. Another thing that we can do is tap and rant. This is really good if you're angry, and you can just pretend that you're on the phone to a friend. Even if you're not angry, if it's something else that you would process by talking to someone, you imagine that you're on the phone to a friend, or really ring a friend and just tap around the points as you're explaining what happened, as you're saying this happened and it felt really bad, and whatever it might be that you're working on. And then if you find that you're really stuck, none of that's worked, you can't get the words, you're stuck in this emotion and you really want to shift it, just tap silently. Just tap silently. You can tap on even though I have no idea what words to say, and just see what comes out. And then another possibility is to just tap silently and think about what it is that's happened and just see what shifts. And we can do that tapping like this, or we can do hold and breathe. So we can hold each point and just take a deep breath. And if you choose hold and breathe, try to make your out breath longer than your in breath, because our in breath activates our sympathetic nervous system and our out breath activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which, to put simply, is calming down the fight or flight response. So those are a few possibilities for the words, coming up with the words. If you have any other ideas, please let me know. Oh, one other thought that I have. What you could do is get together with a friend. If you're learning EFT with a friend, you can listen to each other's words, talk to each other about what it is that you're working on, and take turns to do this. So one person be the therapist, one person be the client. Let the client talk about what it is for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then the person who's being the therapist, pick out the relevant words, pick out the emotion words, the words that the client seemed most heightened when they were saying, and you can sort of practice like that and then swap over. That's if you've got someone in your life that wants to do that with you. If all of that fails, you can always work with me. If you would like to learn more about EFT, if you would like to have some sessions, do get in touch. You can contact me through the link in the description or in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions as well about any of this, they would be most welcome. Thank you for watching, and I hope that's been helpful to you.